Ladies and gentlemen, just as at when everybody are expecting what we are going to come out with from the second summit of the Alliance of Sahel States, Al Jazeera English, which is one of the branch of the mainstream media unipolar platform that projects the interests of the Western deep state, dropped a smear video about the Alliance of the Sahel States, trying to smear every bit of progress they've made against terrorism in the Sahel, and they want to convince you to think that whatever is going on with the AES bloc is not good enough. Ladies and gentlemen, before I analyze the video and make you understand what this smear campaign is all about, I want you to watch this video, listen to the lyric, listen to the sound, listen to the different scene they are going to project to you, why I'm going to explain everything after the video. Families, let's watch this video.
Mali is in the grip of a crisis. Petrol pumps in Bamako have run dry, while outside the capital, fuel trucks are burning. Armed fighters are gaining strength as they increase attacks in Mali and the neighbouring countries. But now, the city is hosting a summit with Burkina Faso and Niger with the aim of finding answers to resolve the crisis. So what's going on in Mali? And can this trio bring stability to a region beset with decades of violence? Let's start with the summit. These leaders are meeting with the aim of pooling resources to foster military and economic support. They call themselves the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES, and they're all facing the same threat from the armed group Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wa Muslimin, or JNIM. The Al-Qaeda affiliate has been targeting fuel tankers making their way from the Ivory Coast and Senegal through Mali to the capital. The sudden drop in fuel is paralysing the economy, shutting businesses and schools and cutting off electricity, all while JNIM is gaining traction and power. The group is estimated to have around 6,000 fighters. This map shows its expansion and attacks across borders in the past 2 years, extending from Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, and now to Benin and Togo. JNIM expanded its reach amid several military coups. Mali's leader, General Assimi Goïta, took power in 2021. Military leaders in Niger and Burkina Faso followed suit with promises to defeat armed groups. And these countries are also bound in their rejection of support from the West. In 2022, Bamako forced French troops to leave after 9 years and cut ties with UN peacekeeping forces. They've also rejected assistance from ECOWAS, the 15-member African bloc. In November, France, the US and UK called on the citizens to leave Mali. Russian armed groups, including Wagner and the Kremlin-backed African Corps, are playing a key role in battling the fighters. The three countries say they're freeing themselves from remnants of their former French colonizer. Last year, Mali got rid of French street signs and the curriculum on French history has been downgraded. They're also nationalizing resources to gain control of their mineral wealth. With Russia and China showing interest in the region, they no longer need to rely on the West to do business. So at the summit, will these countries unite to strengthen governance, or will their isolation make them more vulnerable to attacks?
So, ladies and gentlemen, you see, they will never ever stop. First of all, they talked about the AES state, they talked about Mali, they brought out everything negative, they brought out fuel tankers burning. When you see what they did from the very start, the editing and everything, it is to throw the African countries in a bad light, most especially to make sure that when you hear anything like the Alliance of Sahel States, you will be scared to even talk about visiting Mali, Burkina Faso or Niger. That is the message they are trying to send across, so that if you are an investor or anybody that has any good intention to invest in the Sahel, when you see things like this, you are going to be gripped by fear, thinking, man, if I go to this place, what are the possibilities that I'm going to come out alive? That is the number one message they're trying to pass across. And the second thing they're trying to do with that video is to make you think that nothing, when it comes to investment, has the potential to survive in the Sahel, because the energy infrastructure is not capable to sustain whatever investment you want to have there. That is why they're showing you the fuel tankers burning and everything. And they're trying to project their machinery force, which is the JNIM. They're trying to project it to be a powerful machinery force. They are terrorists, but that they are not the main terrorists. The main terrorists are their sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, now, one big question we need to ask at this point is, how did they know the estimated number of these jihadists if they are not a sponsor? If the sponsor of these platforms are not the sponsor of this so-called Janjaweed, how did they know the estimated number of these jihadists? Because they are the ones that recruit. They are the ones that are funding. So they know the numbers of mercenary forces, that because they recruit and they procure the equipment, they pay the maintenance fee, they send in their trainers, they send in their engineers. So they have an estimated number. So that is why they even have the detail precisely about the number of terrorists that are operational in this block of West Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, that is just a side of it. Now, I want you to understand something. They even said that the Sahel states have rejected assistance from, they mentioned number one, the European Union. They mentioned the ECOWAS. And what was the proposal of the ECOWAS? That if we are going to help you to fight terrorism, that you have to give up power, you have to bring back the former criminals that were in power, bring them back, reinstall them, and then we can talk about fighting terrorism. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing is that the situation of terrorism in Nigeria, who happens to be the face of ECOWAS, you know, the situation of terrorism in Nigeria is devastating. For those of you that don't know the situation of terrorism in Nigeria, let me play some videos for you so that you can understand how devastating this same ECOWAS they are claiming that can help Sahel to solve its problem. Let me play you some clips so that you know what is going on. Just evidences from people. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch this video.
The topic for this video is how shameless and problematic Nigeria is at this point. I first of all know you would want me to mind my business and talk about my own country, Ghana. But listen, I don't really care about what you think. And if you haven't checked in my videos, I talk more about my country than any other on this platform. But at this point, it's not just silly and problematic how miserable Nigeria is. It's becoming for all of West Africa. And if you feel agitated already for my choice of words, wait and hear the rest of all I have to say. Let's get into it. Nigeria's population is a national security threat to every neighboring and West African country. As of March this year, Nigeria's population is more than half the total population of West African countries. More than half. This means on any given day, the influx of Nigerian citizens to any West African country will easily swallow up the entire local population. This is why every country in West Africa needs to have a say in what goes on in Nigeria, on the backdrop of the fact that they like to travel, ladies and gentlemen. They like to move, and they are moving in numbers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, two major situations are making Nigeria look scary to the rest of Africa, especially the neighboring West African countries. And I said two major things. But first, let's put aside the lack of stable electricity and inflation for now. Those are regular problems everywhere that every country in Africa has to deal with. However, the two worrisome situations brewing in Nigeria, which threatens the sovereignty of other African countries, has to do with the religious extremism and poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to again hold back on the insults for now, and also put down your biased glasses and hear me out for a minute before you come in. Are you aware of the number of Islamist jihadist groups operational in Nigeria as of 2025? Let me give you the list, ladies and gentlemen. It started in the year 2000 with Boko Haram, whose aim is to establish an Islamic state in Nigeria. Then the first splinter group from Boko Haram, called Ansaru, was formed in 2012. After Ansaru came the next splinter group called Islamic State West Africa Province, aka ISWAP, which started in 2016. Darul Salam also came in from the Niger Delta, and then the multiple Fulani militant groups came in. Just when we thought these groups were too many to handle for one country, then we hear of a group originally from Mali and also operational in Niger moving in to Nigeria. They are called Lakurawa. The situation appears to get worse by the days, from one bad jihadist group to a worse group. Ladies and gentlemen, is Nigeria becoming, or already become, the main breeding ground for all terrorist groups in Africa? What's going on here? When other countries are thinking of ways to create conducive environment to entice foreign investment, Nigeria is rather enticing terror. Let me ask you this: what conditions are making the northern part of Nigeria so enticing to these groups in the first place? Because this is where almost all of them are situated. Every day I read the news in Nigeria, I get terrified. Every time, because the spillover of these groups will directly enter all the nearby countries. These are countries in West Africa. This may include the splinter groups moving to other countries, or the citizens of Nigeria abandoning their own homeland for another. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a serious issue that needs immediate continental concern. Nigeria is a friend of Ghana. Nigeria is a part of ECOWAS. When they are moving into your country, we cannot turn them away. But when 1 million moves in at one time, what then becomes the fate of the host nation's security, sovereignty, and economy? And this can happen on any given day, ladies and gentlemen. And what actually terrifies me is this: I don't see any real political actions or steps taken by the leadership of the country to deal with the situation. You don't hear of the presidency talk about strategies. You don't hear of governors talk plans, and senators the same. Where are the marches, ladies and gentlemen, and the demonstrations on the streets to force the hand of the government to face it head on? Where are they? It's like the fate of the people in this country is in individuals' hands. Those with the resources may hire armed officers for their personal security, and those who don't have to live carefully and away from certain hotspots. Ladies and gentlemen, is this the best Nigeria can do in their own country? Day in, day out, all we hear is kidnapping, robbery on buses and even on trains, village killings, and so on. Is this ever going to change in Nigeria in the nearest possible time? Nigeria currently ranks 10 on every type of crime list in the world. Talk about cybercrime, organized crime, financial crimes, and extremism. You will find them on the top 10 list of all of them. What type of society are you building? On the criminality index on ocindex.net, you are 6th out of 193 countries, 2nd out of African countries, and number 1 in West Africa. You are ranked 19th among the least peaceful countries in the world, and nothing shows it bothers you, especially they that hold power in the country. Omanaja, what's up? When you finally get the chance to vote for a president who may bring a difference to the country, you reject it. You vote the same type of leadership in every election, and the problems continues. Why won't you try change? Why can't the people try what Ghana did? You come out in your numbers, you create your own coalition centers, you protect the ballot boxes at all costs, and ensure a free and fair elections for once in your lifetime. Because if you as a regular Nigerian don't like what's going on in your home country, you have to do something about it. Ladies and gentlemen, that cannot be done by anyone else but yourselves, unless it benefits you. What's the ultimate goal here? When you have chosen democracy as your system of governance and it's only making life a living hell for the majority of the people, what is the plan, ladies and gentlemen? This is disturbing. Now, on to the second situation that is of equal concern as the first. This is about the level of poverty in Nigeria. You have more than 40% of your total population living below the global poverty line of $2.15 per day. That's more than 100 million people, ladies and gentlemen. That's a national security crisis. To have more than 100 million people who don't spend up to 3,300 naira in a day is problematic for the state's economy and for the people themselves. And here is how. The 3,300 naira per day will include your transport fare in and out to work if you have one, or to school, your breakfast, your lunch, your supper for one person. And so when that's not possible for more than 100 million people, then there isn't much these 100 million people are doing to contribute to the economy of the local state. People must work, produce, buy, pay taxes, and all of that, which runs the local economy. And that explains why countries whose citizens spend more do better than countries which citizens spends less. This is economic fact. Economic activities thrives off of demand and supply, buying and selling. And so when purchasing power drops, supply power is affected. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to that is the low rate at which Nigeria's economy is growing. With the kind of population you have and expected to have in the next 10 years, your economy cannot survive on a single-digit economic growth in a fiscal year. Currently in Nigeria, your country is growing on an average rate of 3.4%. 3.4%. That's super slow for your size. You need to move that thing to more than 10% per annum and sustain it over a decade to meet the surge ahead. Your country's population is projected to hit 290 million in the next 10 years, and that's adding at least 50 million more people to what you have now. So the pace you are running will have to change immediately. From 2020 to 2023, the average unemployment rate was over 39% of the capable workforce until last year, when the new administration by Tinubu had to revise the method for calculating to reduce it to now 5.3%. Whether that is accurate or not, the reality of the people hasn't changed, and that's a huge problem. Ghana and every other country for that matter have our own problems to deal with, but at least not with the numbers Nigeria comes with. The very fact that these two situations I've just described has a direct impact on all neighboring countries is what has triggered me to do this video, because the rise and success of Nigeria is in the interest of all African countries. In the same way, the fall and demise of Nigeria is detrimental to all African countries, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, whether it offends your pride as a successful Nigerian who doesn't like your country being talked about in a negative light or not, that's not only up to them or you to determine what others may say, because once there is a problem in your country, everyone will feel the impact. Just like it said, when Nigeria sneezes, every African country catches cold. Folks, I want to read your opinion on this matter without insult. So let's hear from you. And
now, apart from that, when the European Union made a proposal, the proposal they made, according to Captain Ibrahim Traore, was that they were told that they want to keep the fight going. Their aim was not to end the fight. They want to sustain the fight.
The terrorists are reinforced by many foreign fighters who come from elsewhere, who are not actually, for example, if I take the case of Burkina, there are many criminals who are in Burkina, but who are not from Burkina Faso. There are also trainers who come from many countries to teach them a lot of techniques.
But who gave it to them? But this
is not actually terrorism, it's imperialism. Their goal is to keep us in a state of perpetual war so that we can't develop and so they can continue to plunder our resources. Today, terrorists are using drones. For fighting and everything, it's professionals from certain countries who come to teach them. All of that. All of this is to keep us in a state of insecurity. But we are aware of what's going on. We adapt every time to their methods, and we will continue the fight until we reclaim the whole Sahel. Look at the speeches. Even the French president, always in his speeches, says that young Africans are influenced by Russia. He says it. Western media, if you listen to them often, they do nothing but lie all the time. And look today at the AIS, which is a model that's starting to take shape. They can't go from morning to night without talking about Burkina or about the AIS. It's impossible for them. And every time they try to spread information to divide and manipulate the youth. But it doesn't work anymore. I think people are aware enough now. People have their eyes open.
Let the terrorists be killing the people. Let the people be complaining. Just let us maintain. Your soldiers keep on fighting too. But let it be balanced. Just exactly like what is going on in Nigeria. But just that in Nigeria now, there is now so many organizations, the Lakurawa, the Bandits, the Boko Haram, the ISWAP, JNIM. It is now so much, and it is getting to an unprecedented level that the situation is looking almost hopeless. Now, that is that with that. And when you talk about every terrorism scale right now, Nigeria is top 10. And in Africa, they are 1 to 2. Nigeria is between number 1 and number 2. So now, the funny aspect of things right now is that these are the same organization that they are talking about. Okay, in between, the Sierra Leonean president is the current ECOWAS president. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump, the United States just released a list of countries that is going to be facing travel ban based on the allegation of terrorism. Guess what? Mali, Burkina Faso are not there. But guess who was there? Sierra Leone made it to the top list. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about? And Julius Maada Bio is the president of this country. So that is, by the way, moving forward, we need to understand some things. They talked about the United States sending so much delegation. We saw Rudy Atala. And it is very, very important that I'm mentioning the name of Rudy Atala, because when Rudy Atala came to the Sahel, there was only one negotiation the United States made, that if you want us to help you fight terrorism, we will help you kill the leaders of the JNI. You can see that even the presenter, he knows the full meaning, he knows everything about the JNI. This is not about research. This is about the fact that they are properly informed that by those who fund this organization. So they said, in exchange for eliminating the leaders of this JNI, you are going to offer us a free right to mine lithium and gold in your country. So ladies and gentlemen, who is really, really the sponsor of this terrorism? As if that was not enough, you can see carefully when you watch the video, you can actually see that when they talked about Mali kicking out the French, they showed you something. When you look at behind the French soldier that was standing next to that light armored personnel carrier, you can see a lot of bullet hole in that light armored personnel carrier. They are trying to project something to you, and I want you all to get this message very clearly. They are trying to tell you that, look, these are the people that really, really came to the Sahel to fight terrorism. That is why only on that armored personnel carrier, you saw a lot of bullet holes. Let me tell you what I think. I think that was a PR stunt. They fired by themselves. They fired on that light armored personnel carrier just for this present moment, so that they can build up this type of, PR stunt. And guess what? When they talked about Russia and China, guess what they showed? They showed the Russian soldier just shooting a rifle without nothing in front of the rifle. Do you get the difference? They are trying to tell you that Russia is just, they are doing nonsense in the Sahel, and the French group were the ones that really, really were fighting against terrorism. And if you look at the expression on the French soldier's face, it was all theatric. If you understand anything about theatricals, you could really, you'll be able to paint a better picture from what I'm trying to explain. Now they finished it with their, the new partnership and the coalition between these countries Will it, alleviate the situation? We've been able to provide substantial evidence on what is going on the line of contact. Just yesterday, we still provided information. Day before yesterday, this is another information that we provided. As if that is not enough, ladies and gentlemen, they're not going to stop at that point. They now said with their isolation, will it make them more vulnerable? Ladies and gentlemen, the question we need to ask here is this: isolation from who and attacks from who? Isolation from who? Who told them that the Sahel are isolating themselves? So if they're isolating themselves, how are they shipping in their commodities? How are they exporting their products? Now, to make manifest that concept of isolation, you can see yesterday, if you've been following our platform, we posted a video where the European Union representative are now talking about, working with the coastal countries. That is the isolation that this person is talking about. Isolate. Are you getting the script? It is very, very important for you to follow our stories, because some of these things, they happen one after the other, and you can actually synchronize everything, articulate it, and it will make sense. It will be more clearer. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the sole sponsors of terrorism. Just because they know that this summit that is coming is highly anticipated, it is going to be unprecedented. You have the unified AES forces coming in with so much capability. You have Mali now having rapid intervention brigade battalion. Still looking at the VDP capability. When you look at the Diori and Mani exhibition, the show of force by the Alliance of Sahel Unified Force, you saw a lot of fighter jets, aircraft capability, drone capability, and they continue to power up themselves. We've seen the unified AES investment bank. It's so much good news from the AES, but now they are coming with the media propaganda to make you think there is nothing good going on in the Sahel. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this right now. I know that once this message goes against their interests, they are going to try to make sure they use their power of control over this platform to surmount the video. But I'm going to see. I'm going to wait and see if that will work, because that has always been their agenda. Any platform, any channel that expose what they try to do to Africans, no, they don't. That channel is not supposed to. The information is not supposed to have good reach. It's supposed to have a limited reach. They will write processing for reviewing, processing. It's under review for 24 hours, for so many hours. It's exasperating. So we should keep quiet, right? Why they release erroneous, full of, I don't want to, they want us to keep watching them tell so much lies about the Sahel. Matter of fact, I am not even from the Sahel. I am not a Sahel citizen, but I know so much about what is going on there to get so angry about this information propaganda you are looking at right there. Now, that is not enough. So yesterday, they equally dropped a message. 4 hours ago, they dropped this message. Ladies and gentlemen, they dropped this video. And according to what they said in this video, the speaker in this video was speaking the More language. Okay? Now, according to the information, they said one of them spoke Fulani language, which is the Fufude, and the next person spoke the More language. Now, this is the person that was speaking the More, right? According to the information they gave us, they said the message from this jihadist is that Captain Ibrahim Traore should step down from power because the people of Burkina Faso are suffering. Families, can you comprehend with that? Now, you know the message. You know who is saying that. It is not this bunch of Janjaweeds. That is Emmanuel Macron right there. I don't care if the reach of this video go far, but I'm just going to tell my truth because this is getting out of control. right? That is Emmanuel Macron sending that message right there. When you hear that the people of Burkina Faso are suffering, there is only one person that can be so delusional to say that type of statement, and that is France. We've heard it from their media countless times. And guess what they did? They have now financed the jihadists once more. How did they finance? When you look at this video carefully and you watch the vehicle-borne capabilities, when you look at the guns that are mounted on that vehicle-borne capability, those are anti-material, anti-aircraft weapon. You know why they are doing that? Because one of the ways through which the AES has piled so much problem, they have compounded so much woes on these people, is because the AES deploys air vector components with so much destructive capability that sometimes, before they even know what is going on, there is already a decapitation strike assault, and they continue to lose personnel critically on the line of contact. Recruitment, according to information that we've gathered, is becoming very hard because people don't want to get unalived. And guess who is the highest importer of arms to Africa? The European. So, the unipolar world, they continue to fund this terrorism. And I will tell you why. The uranium of Niger is too consequential to them, because it is this same uranium that France was stealing, let's call it what it is, that it was selling to these people. You know, it was this same uranium that it was stealing that it was using to power its own electricity. Ladies and gentlemen, this level of calamity cannot continue. They are talking about the resources of this country, that they're trying to, you know, own their own resources, own the right to their own resources. Remember, recently, the IMF told Botswana that you cannot own your own resources. So if you own your own resources, there will be consequence.
The IMF has warned Botswana against owning its own diamond mines, because apparently a country owning its own resources is bad for its economy.
We are already confronting that consequence. It can't get any worse. So Africans, families, all of you home and abroad, it's time for you to understand critically what the agenda of these people is. I know that this video might be blocked from your region. You might not see it. But if you come across this message, I just want you to know that that is another smear campaign. And if you want to be listening to platforms, BBC, Al Jazeera, all this platform, you remember that Donald Trump just filed a lawsuit against BBC. They are still scrambling about that one. And this is Al Jazeera, another very fake platform. And these are the platform that continues to fly around in Africa. And you have so much Africans that are lost in frivolities that will see this and will be like, oh, is this the reality? Please, you don't have the information. Do your research properly. Do your research properly. Even AI tools are now being manipulated. The programming are now being manipulated in such a way that everything about the Sahel is being twisted negatively. We need information sovereignty, and it starts with countering of negative offensive like this. So families, this is where I open the floor for today. I'm going to come back later in the day where we'll continue to bring you information that are very, very important to us. It's your boy 72 Android signing out. Enough said, but before I go, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, help us hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Because if you don't, definitely Android is going to cry.